homogenous extremism to one place. Actually, it is the tragedy and the challenge of the modern world that it is not confined to one space. It's there, yes, certainly, in the terrorism in Iraq or Afghanistan, Pakistan, but we could add Yemen or Somalia. We could add the conflict here, the conflicts elsewhere in this region, but we could also add places such as the Philippines, where I was recently, where they explained to me that in the extremism there, 150,000 people have died in the last 10 years in the battles over Mindanao. And most dangerous of all is when there is a state or a government prepared to sponsor it. And I want to make a point here about the issue to do with Iran that is different from the point often made. I believe it is completely irresponsible to allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons capability. But I believe that even as I hope we are able to resolve that diplomatically, the export of extremism around the region and elsewhere is still a problem. In other words, the problem is not simply a weapon, but a weapon with an ideology. And this ideology and those groups that are associated with it, when we come to analyze it, what is it? It's essentially a closed philosophy. These different groups of extremists who are linked together by a perversion of the proper faith of Islam, these extremists, they believe there is one truth, theirs. One legitimacy, the one they own, one answer, one faith. And when we close our minds to the possibility of the other, when we end up in the face of a world that is opening up the whole time, we close down. That is when we get the threat and the challenge. And when we are confronted militarily, we have to stand up militarily. But in the end, the best way to defeat a bad idea is by a good one. And that is not just freedom and democracy and justice, important though those concepts are. It is also about being open, facing tomorrow with confidence. And when we analyze the countries that will succeed in the modern world, they are those countries that are prepared to be open, that reject not just the methods of extremism, but reject the philosophy behind it. The countries that succeed will be the countries that develop their human capital, all of it, and develop it based on merit and not on privilege. And if that is true, the countries that succeed will be those that give women equal rights with men. Not just because it is right to do so, but because otherwise we waste the human capital of the nation. It is why racial bigotry is not just immoral, it is foolish. And why bigotry of faith is not just something antisocial in the modern world, but something that repels the very things that make the modern world worthwhile. This is how nations today succeed. This is what tomorrow is about. Not countries shut down, but countries innovative, creative, imaginative, constantly inspired by the possibility of change, not frightened by its impact. So when the Prime Minister today said, and the President also spoke of climate change and the challenge of it, and they talked, and we saw some of the film about the extraordinary ideas going on in electric vehicles, which we also hope to do in the United Kingdom. Solar power. It's a little bit of a struggle for us, but how are these things going to be done? Yes, they're going to be done by bright, clever young people, as we've just seen, but they're going to be developed in California and Bangalore and in Beijing, as well as in Tel Aviv and in other places of the world. And what's more, these people are going to talk to each other, and they're going to learn from each other, and they're going to develop with each other. And they're not going to ask whether someone is white or black or brown or yellow. They will simply ask, what are their qualities as a human being? What can they give? What can they offer? What can they do for the future, the coming future?